My name is Ruth Beta, and today I'm bringing you the top 5 most unlikely athletes who have competed in a relay.
We've all been there. Whether it be you need a player for a five-a-side, you have a spare ticket for a concert, or you need someone to play a part in a theatre production, there are situations in life that have you desperately scrolling through your contacts in search of someone, anyone, to step up and be a hero. Athletics is no different, and last-minute injury has led to some very unlikely athletes needing to take one for the team. We have seen this in team competitions where athletes score points for their team, such as Barbara Spotakova throwing a shot put in the European team competition for the Czech Republic. She came last, but I salute her effort. More commonly, though, we have seen this when one runner is no longer able to make a relay. A relay consists of 4 runners, so one not being able to compete is fairly common. But for this reason, World Athletics does allow countries to select from a pool of athletes. But there are occasions when, for whatever reason, a country is forced to choose an athlete from a completely different event and then force that poor runner to run up to 400 metres. I'm not talking about the Dream Richards stepping up from 200 to 400, or Aiting Mo stepping down from 800 to 400. I'm talking about Sally bloody Pearson running in a 4x400 metre relay. 10 years since Catherine Freeman won the Olympic title, 400 metre running had apparently dipped in Australia to the point where a 400 metre hurdler was not only given a lane but given the anchor leg on a relay. To be fair, Sally was the athlete of these championships, winning both the hurdles and the flat 100 metres. Although the latter was taken away from her, I don't know. This was a weird one. It was the only disqualification for a false start after the race that I can think of. This was an unusual championship held in October for one thing, and true to form, this relay played out in strange fashion. Nigeria held a big lead only for India, yes, India of all teams, to peg them back. Pearson held third on the final leg, but was overtaken by the English and then the Canadian teams on the final straight. Of course, this being that championship, that result was not final, and after the Nigerians were disqualified, Australia were bumped up to 4th, which meant that Sally Pearson was only a 10th away from a 400 metre medal. Pearson had done 0 training for the 400 metres and collapsed after the line, describing the race as her hardest ever. She was comforted by officials and teammates. It was the end to a strange week in athletics, and for Pearson personally, who had also been credited for the game's record of the 100 metre hurdles, and that record was taken away from her because it actually belonged to Bridget Foster. And is quoted as saying, "It's been amazing, and she's really surprised by how India pulled the games together." He finished that quote by saying, "It's a games I will never forget." I mean, I hope she doesn't forget it, because she only won the 100 metre title, got disqualified, became a 100 metre hurdles champion, had a record taken away from her, and then ran in a 400 metre relay. What a week. Speaking of hurdlers stepping up, one of the great 4x400 metre relays in recent history pitted a classy Jamaican team against one of the best ever British quartets, against an American team without Michael Johnson. So they did not have Michael Johnson, but the team did consist of Alan Johnson. That's right, the greatest 110 metre hurdler ever, represented his country in the heats of the 1997 Athens World Championship, taking the anchor leg no less. Michael Johnson was the individual champion in 1997, but did not contest the relay, effectively handing the baton, to his namesake to compete in the rounds. Fortunately, no surviving clip of this race, but according to World Athletics, he actually clocked an impressive 46.4 seconds. As well as being an Olympic and world champion over the 110 metre hurdles, Johnson also has a personal best in the high jump of over 2 metres and the long jump of over 8 metres 40. And just to add to that, apparently those 46 and something seconds in that relay leg were made to look easy.
I mean, the cheek of the guy, making that look easy.
At 3 is Erik Sowinski, an 800-metre runner. Stepping down to 400 metres is no big deal, but when an 800-metre runner steps down to 100 metres. In 2021, Erik Sowinski had a packed summer of competing and pace-making middle-distance races. But on the 25th of August, Savinsky found himself alongside Isaiah Young, Marvin Bracey and Mike Rogers, all seasoned 100-metre runners, and Savinsky was on a relay team with them, being the anchor leg, no less. This was a bronze continental meeting in Hungary. It's not quite clear how it happened, but Savinsky was given the baton in second place, and the handoff was pretty good, but then the second kind of half of the 100 metres, it becomes clear that this is a man out of his depth, and he kind of drowns among much faster athletes. However it happened, though, the team ran a sub-41 second race, and that must make Savinsky one of the few men in history to have a 4x1 PB and also a world-class 800-metre time. Christina Skaia, a 100 and 200-metre runner for Belarus, was forced by her team without her consent to run in the 400-metre relay. After running in the 100-metre heats, Skaia recorded an Instagram post saying she had been forced into the relay at a distance she had never run before. This led to reports that Belarusian authorities had tried to forcibly return her home. It was one of the strangest events of the Tokyo 2020 Games and was in the news as much as the athletics. As was much reported, Skaia was given asylum in Poland, and the story will no doubt rumble on in the future. Skaia was no 400-metre runner, but it did leave a spot on the Belarusian team that needed to be filled by someone, and that spot went to Elvira Herman. The reigning European 100-metre hurdles champion from Belarus was given the third leg of that relay. If Skaia wasn't a 400-metre runner, then Herman really wasn't. This was a woman with no personal best for 400 metres, and I would bet this was the first time she'd ever run that distance. It was a tough ask. And needless to say, her team finished last, in a time that Sifan Hassan might be able to do on her own for 1600 metres. I feel a bit sorry for all the athletes involved in this farce. Not only were they made to be made a spectacle of in the media and forced to enter a race they had no chance of being competitive in, they had to do it over 400 metres. No one enjoys running 400 metres. But it was not the most random relay runner of all time. Spain entered a squad of 48 runners for the 2011 World Championships in Daegu. This included 4 women lined up for the 4x100 metres, so when one of them couldn't compete for whatever reason, the most obvious move would have been Josephine Onyear, a sprint hurdler, to come in. But no, they did not bring in Onyear. They also did not bring in any of their middle distance runners. They decided the best woman for the job would be Ruth Beta, a high jumper. Beta is not a former heptathlete like Morgan Lake or Tia Hellerberts, nor is she even a power-driven high jumper like Antoinetta Di Martino. She is a real tall, elegant high jumper's high jumper, someone who transcends grace and poise. So what on earth was she doing in a 4x100 metre team? I would genuinely love to know this. What were they thinking? Did they ask her? Did they need someone and her name was picked from a hat? If anyone is watching who knows, or if you are Ruth Beta or you have a contact with the Spanish athletics team, let me know. Ruth, respect for doing that. It is the second biggest mystery of the championships, behind how a Jamaican team containing Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, Karen Stewart, Sharon Simpson, and Veronica Campbell-Brown did not win gold. Very sadly, there is no clip of this race, and unsurprisingly, Spain, with Beta on the anchor leg. Herman aside, why don't these athletes all get given the anchor leg? Why? They didn't do amazingly, finishing outside of 46 seconds, which is not a terrible time considering they had a high jumper on their team. They were only just behind the Korean team, though, and not too far from the British squad, who in those days weren't as good as they are now. In fact, they did beat 5 teams on the basis that they got their baton around and they didn't fill any drugs tests.
So weirdly, Beta actually came 16th in the qualification for the women's high jump in that championship, and she also came 16th in qualifying for the women's 4x100 metres. So does that make her as good a sprinter as a high jumper for those championships? So as ever, please do point out my ignorance and mistakes. Please do tell me that Reese Hoffer did once run a 4x800 metres for the USA. I do know that this kind of thing has happened before in relays. I know that Carolina Klüft did the odd leg for Sweden, and that Lorraine Eugen once anchored the English team to gold in the women's 4x100 metres. But these are kind of sprint-based athletes, or at least they do events which have a kind of sprint inclination. I thought the 5 that I'd chosen were a bit more random, a bit more out there, but you may think differently, and it may be there are omissions and other people that could be added to this list. Really didn't like my suggestions, then make sure to give this video a quick dislike, and maybe through YouTube's algorithms or something I might be blocked and you'll never have to see me again. But for anyone else left watching, thank you for making it to the end, and maybe I'll see you next time.